Hello friends, welcome back to the bench. Thank you very much for joining me. Our patient is an AM35B. I don't know what this is. It's probably Outback. Yeah, AM usually is Outback. It's raining ECM lately. Actually, it's just been like a week and I got like 5 or 6 of them. So it feels like it's raining ECMs, but overall, the ECM work is a little bit slow in ECM. And also, lately I don't get many laptops, but I've had the queue. My queue has been really full for a while because I had a car issues which I had to address, and it was the issue with the exhaust. So I don't have a shop per se, so I do all my repairs on the parking lot without being able to elevate the car, which means I have to lie down on the ground to get that done. And I did. It's still not quite done. It's better than it was for sure, but it's still not quite done, so I won't pass emissions. Although maybe I will, because the issue just kind of returns after like a day. So I can drive, because you just need to speed up to like 70 miles an hour, keep it for like 2 minutes at that speed, and all the IM readiness will be okay, and you'll okay to pass the emissions, even if the code comes back after a day. So I might be able to pass emissions as it is right now, but I do need to kind of fix it. So since I'm not in my 20s anymore, I'm not in my 30s anymore, and recently I found out that stuff that you used to be able to do no problem in your 30s, it's not necessarily stuff you can do in your 40s, So that kind of put me back a little bit with my queue, because I had to recover, basically. So I had like a stack of 8 motherboards for socket replacements. So I decided to do like most of it in one day. That was last weekend on, I don't know, Saturday or Sunday. I just figured, screw it, let's just do one by one. So I did 6 in a day. So I got a pretty good hang of it now. And also I discovered some efficiency issues in Rework Pro based on that, and I figured out what it was, because I've always seen those issues, that the application would become more sluggish the longer it runs, and I thought that was an issue of actually storing all the measurements and a lot of memory, but no, that was a wrong assumption from the very start. The actual problem is in the display layer. The way it works, it just always redraws all the process every couple seconds or whatever, right? But it redraws everything from the memory, even if it's not visible. That's very inefficient, because if your process ran for like 8 hours, then the entire 8 hours is actually drawn, but none of it is actually visible, or only part of it is actually visible on the screen. So that is the problem. I have to fix that. I will most likely fix it this weekend, so expect a new version to be released soon, sometime next week perhaps. But yeah, I did like 6 boards one by one, and that's with disassembly. That also really took a lot out of me, but I'm glad I cleared up the queue with that, because that took like quite a few weeks because of that delay, right? So now I'm trying to unload the queue with the ECMs, and I have one last laptop for the customer that we already diagnosed and stuff, and I just need to swap the CPU on it. But to swap the CPU, I need to get a stencil, and I actually need to get it done, right? So I need to look for the stencil, order it, and get that stuff done as well, but that's not gonna be this weekend. But anyways, I wanted to clear the queue, because the queue has been pretty much, there's always been something in the queue for the past like month, which is awesome, don't get me wrong. This is the measure of success, actually, right? If you always have something to work on. But from time to time, I actually miss the time when I don't have anything in queue, right? And when I don't have anything in queue, then I can work on other stuff, right? Like stuff that I always put on the back burner, or do a little software development. Work on because I'm working on an automation for eBay, and actually I got the hardest part I already have done. Actually, connecting, authorizing, and fetching data from the eBay API. I just need to do the stuff around it, and the main purpose is when you buy my software, I don't want to have to always, always manually generate the license and email you and stuff like that. I want it to, as soon as you make a purchase, 5 minutes later, you get your license link and all of that, and I don't have to do anything. That means I can drop the price of the software as well. If it's this level of automation, that means pretty much no overhead on my side, which means I can drop the price, right? Which is awesome. It's good for everyone. So I figured I wanna empty the queue this weekend, as far as the ECMs and everything go, and I only have one more ECM, or two more. Yeah, one more ECM and a motherboard. But the motherboard, that's actually pretty interesting, because the customer bought it from somewhere. He did tell me. I have the information somewhere, but it's not very relevant. And he didn't check because he was new to PC building stuff, right? So he didn't know what to check. And that's how we all learn, right? When you screw up, you get you get something like botched board or something. Then you remembered what to check. That's how we learn. Anyways, he unfortunately fried his CPU because of that, and I think it's a faulty socket. But he said he initially contacted me saying that if I want a board basically for free to just repair on the video, right? So like kind of a donation, right? And sure, no problem, I'll take it. But then he asked, like, if I do repair it, how much would it be to get it back? Right? So if it's so at this point we're like in the spot where if it's a socket issue, then it's $75 for the socket replacement, right? That's the price I have on eBay. But I don't do testing or anything like that. This isn't a repair service, it's just a socket replacement service, right? Very important to remember that distinction between those two. So I'm not sure what to do. It's a decent board, very decent board, so it's definitely worth a repair. But I don't repair boards, and the reason I don't, because I did. You must have seen few of my videos where I do attempt a motherboard repair. So sure, I have tried in the past, but the problem with motherboards is that there are so many combinations of hardware that you just kind of need to know. So you need, like, at least, even considering AMD alone, right? Just AMD architecture. You need at least, I don't know, 6, maybe 8 different CPUs to be compatible with all the boards that you can possibly get, right? Then the memory, same thing. Then not only the compatibility, but also, you know, some CPUs have PCH and actually AMD, yeah, the majority. But some of them will have a display adapter in the CPU, some will not, right? So you need a GPU so you can test whether it displays, right? But then again, it's not any GPU that you can connect to any board. Then the frequency of the memory banks, right? The whatever memory chips you want to put in, they need to be supported by the board, right? Then of course you need some hardware to diagnose the board, right? To read the codes. So some of this you plug into the the PCI Express, right? But PCI Express might not report because it depends on what the fault on the board is, right? So instead you have to connect to TPM header. But then again, maybe some boards don't have a TPM. All kinds of stuff. This is like a really complex problem, the motherboard repair. And it requires a lot of knowledge, a lot of experience as well. All right. So personally, I just prefer to just do, you know, my socket replacement service is kind of dedicated to other technicians, to other shops, because you can, you know, you can diagnose the board, you can replace the chip and what have you, but you don't have tools or experience to replace the socket, and that is understandable. It's a very tedious procedure, and it requires plenty of tools and plenty of experience to actually do it successfully and to actually give yourself a good probability of success, right? That's why a long time ago I decided that I wanna master this procedure, and I wanna learn how to successfully replace CPU sockets. Now at the moment my measure of success is basically the board didn't deform, right? It didn't bubble, the socket didn't melt, the socket is firmly on the board. And since I've done, especially recently, these 6 boards in a row, and that was 8 boards in total, that gave me a lot of confidence, and I've learned a lot, right? Because if you do them like one by one, it's a completely different experience than when you do one board a month or one board every 2 weeks and stuff like that. It's a completely different experience, and that gave me a lot. I benefited a lot from that. So what was my point? My point was to clear the queue, because I kind of missed the time where I don't have a full queue of stuff that I need to work on. But I always have stuff that I can work on and I would like to work on, but it's not necessarily something that will bring me money or anything like that in the near future or ever, right? But you know, I haven't had a day off this year yet. I would like to have like a lazy Sunday from time to time. Just watch some Columbo, maybe just watch some YouTube and just kind of chill. Or maybe, you know, take the family to the lake, you know, run around with the dog, that kind of stuff. You know, live a little. It's a little bit of normal everyday life. I would like that from time to time. It's not that I spent my 20s especially and good chunk of my 30s just kind of, well, maybe not good chunk of my 30s, but definitely my 20s. It's just kind of not caring about money, not caring about future too much. So I didn't really give myself a good start in life, right? I was more of a like free spirit Buddhist kind, you know, like kind of a hippie, right? So naturally, now I have to compensate. So that's why I work hard. That's why I don't take days off. That's why I don't waste time by, you know, either playing games or doing stuff unproductive. I don't go to bars. I don't go to parties. Even, you know, last New Year's Eve, I celebrated by working on Rework Pro. Right? Well, back then it wasn't even, I didn't even have an idea for Rework Pro. I just wanted to figure out how to control my rework machine. And then after I made the first version, which is free, I got an idea that I can do it better. I can bypass the limitations of the machine and develop a software that allows you to do stuff that the machine typically doesn't allow you to do, but physically it is possible. It's just a matter of software. For instance, the number of steps that you can upload to the machine, I think it's limited to 8, if I remember correctly. But Rework Pro can have 20 steps, 50 steps, 100 steps. There's no limit, right? That was the main idea of Rework Pro. And it worked beautifully. Everybody loves it. I love it. And the users of the software are happy. That's my validation, right? So I'm glad I didn't spend New Year's Eve by celebrating the year, but rather I did something to make my whole year a lot better. So that's what I do. And I'm not complaining about it by no means. As I said, it's just, you know, I wasted a lot of time in my life, so now I have to compensate. And to be honest, working is a reward for me alone. You know, being able to work, being able to do this stuff in the shop, right? And, you know, being able to actually pay for the solder, pay for the tools and all that stuff from the shop, right? The shop pays for that. Because I used to, when I started, I had to invest into all that. I had to buy all the equipment and stuff. And admittedly, or luckily, I managed to find like really cheap equipment. The whole shop, when I was thinking about it, I was thinking that it would take about 10 to maybe 15, maybe $16,000 to get all the equipment that I need. But I managed to get all the equipment and within a $1,000. And not all of it, just all the equipment that I needed to start. So the scope, the soldering iron, the solder station, like everything, right? And I had to pretty much rebuild my whole bench a few times now, right? So with each time I move and I have to rebuild the bench, and at one time I had to just rebuy all the stuff that I needed, like, you know, bench power supply, soldering iron, the scope, all of that. So that's so I knew what to look for. I knew what I needed. You know, there's no losses in this. Even if you lose your entire equipment and everything, you didn't actually lose much, because now you know how to rebuild it. You know what you need, and that is something that we all wish we knew at the time when we start for the first time, right? That's why the most valuable videos that you can find on YouTube from the professionals of whatever profession are the videos basically titled what I wish I knew when I started, basically, right? Because that's when you know, after you've done something for a while, that's when you know how you would start it if you had to start now, right? That is very valuable knowledge in my view. There is a saying, maybe not saying, that's from literature, that people should grow backwards. You first should be an old. You first should be old and then be young, because when you're old, that's when you know how you should have spent your 20s. When you're in your 40s, you know how you should have spent your 20s. But when you're in your 20s, you don't know, and you definitely don't know how you should spend your 40s when you're in your 20s. But that's how world works, right? We have to make those decisions about our pretty much, maybe not entire life, but the majority of our life. The decisions we have to make very early. What school we're gonna go to, right? Which profession are we gonna choose? But how can you choose your profession if you haven't worked that profession yet, right? I was actually kind of lucky because the profession that I do nowadays, software, basically developing software, that is something that I was interested in early on. I started in '97, and electronics I started. It's kind of difficult to say when I started electronics, because I was never really in the officially, and I never graduated in a school that would teach me electronics. So the majority of knowledge of electronics that I've had until like a few years ago was from the magazines, from older colleagues, educated colleagues, stuff that I would see from my tinkering. My uncle was an electronics engineer, and when I was a kid, he would give me, because I would ask for like some devices that I could disassemble and reassemble. Obviously, I would never reassemble them because I didn't know how, but I did know how to disassemble them, or at least I did disassemble most of them, almost to the absolute entirety, to the last possible screw, right? So that was my introduction to electronics, and I was always interested in that. So, that I was kind of lucky that way. But, if you pick a major, especially some people do pick major based on what's easier to pass, what's easier to actually graduate from, right? And where I come from, one of those was either tourism, geology, that kind of stuff. Well, tourism maybe is not too bad. But geology, no one actually tells you at school that, if you graduate with that degree, there are literally like 6 jobs in this country for this particular degree, right? Because we don't need any more geologists. There's not enough work for them, and it's paid by, by the country, by the government. It's government job. Now in US, it's obviously different because we drill oil and stuff like that. So you need so geologists are needed in private sector. It's not only government jobs. But my point is that you don't have necessary knowledge to even make that decision when you have to make that decision. So it's kind of catch-22 in a way. It's not fair that you are expected to make a decision that you cannot, objectively, you cannot make. You're not equipped to make that decision. Yet, you have to. It's kind of sad in a way. Not fair, obviously, but that is the reality. When I was a kid, I always wanted to do what I do now, sure. But my dad and a few other members of my family would just advise me to, no, that if you're interested in that, if you like doing that, then sure, then you'll be able to do it when you have a successful career, and you can do that on the side, right? Keep it as your hobby, but get a career that actually fits your abilities. And unfortunately, I was never gifted as a mathematician or, you know, those subjects at school. I struggled with math. I also struggled with chemistry. I struggled with history. I struggled with a lot of other stuff. Yet I went to school for math and physics. I have no idea how I graduated, but it took, in all fairness, it took a lot of money from my family to send me to private tutors and stuff so I can just pass my exams. It took a lot of effort. I still remember for, what was it? The Polish language, basically. I had a tutor that was, I was a teenager, like early teenager. So it was kind of different times back then. A lot of people were smoking cigarettes, and my tutor, she was amazing, right? The way she was explaining it all made sense. She had like some tricks and charts and stuff to make it easier to understand stuff and to memorize stuff, or to put better context on it. But she would smoke every 10-15 minutes. She would light up a cigarette. And again, I was in my teens. I was already smoking as well, right? Again, different times. Cigarettes were cheap, available, and everybody was smoking. So yeah, us kids were smoking as well. But that was especially hard for me because it was obviously a little boring. It's because that subject was never really my interest, was never of my interest in any way. So yeah, I would love to smoke a cigarette as well, and especially when you're craving a cigarette and someone next to you is smoking, then that makes it harder. So that was the whole problem that I had with that tutor. But she was amazing. She was an amazing teacher. So yeah, the reason I graduated was mainly because my family just threw in a lot of money into getting me the teachers I needed and help I needed to even graduate. But that's what I always wanted to do, and sometimes you're not good at what you want to do, what you're passionate about, right? And even though I never graduated computer science, which I dropped out, I also studied a few other things like English, philology, and economics. So I dropped out of 3 universities in total. So I gave it a fair try. It's not as easy. If you've never graduated, then trust me, it's not as easy. If you did graduate and it was easy for you, then kudos. That means you're smart. I'm not. So to me, that was really hard. School in general was very hard for me. I was not gifted, but I had a drive to actually understand stuff, to actually do stuff. All right. So nowadays, since I don't have a degree, most companies make it optional. You either have a degree or you have experience. Yep. Okay, I got interrupted, so I don't remember where my thought has ended. But my point was that nowadays it's either in education or equivalent experience. So at this point, having like pretty much 3 decades of experience in this profession, I don't need a degree anymore. But that's not entirely true, because some companies won't even give me a chance if the requirement is that they need a degree, and non-negotiable. You need a degree and that's it. And sometimes it's for legal reasons, sometimes it's for other reasons like regulation reasons, that kind of stuff, right? So it's not even really up to those companies. Sometimes it's just a requirement and that's it. So I'm excluded out of those jobs. So do I regret never graduating? Yeah, I would prefer to have graduated. In many cases that would have helped me, or in some cases it would have helped me. In some cases it really doesn't matter. Um, so although all that advice I got from older people, yeah, I would say you never take life advice from your grandparents. You learn history from your grandparents, but no, because your grandparents grew up in a completely different world. Especially financial advice nowadays, you know, it's the advice that you will get from your grandparents is not going to stand for you right now. So no, I would say, yeah, listen, or um, listen to your grandparents' stories to learn about the history, how it was, and stuff. And there are some universal truths that stay relevant across many generations, sure. But when it comes to economy and technology and stuff like that, no. My grandma had plenty of advice for me, but none of it was relevant throughout my life, even until now. And whatever advice I will give my son when he's a teenager, which is upcoming relatively soon, it's gonna be useless. So no, I'm not gonna give him an advice like that per se. Like, yeah, you have to graduate this school or that school. And even when the Poland joined the European Union, there was a lot of schools that the subject was basically history and economical knowledge of the European Union, and a lot of a lot of people graduated from those schools. And again, there was like 50 jobs for that, certificate, and that's it. Obviously, schools want to have the what do a hot product. They sell education, right? So they want to have the hottest product. That we're joining union, so yeah, we have a new subject called Europe, knowledge of Europe and stuff like that, and the whole degree. And you just graduate with that degree, and 5 years later, it's not even relevant anymore. So sometimes it passes really quickly, and you're kind of stuck with with good advice. Well, anyways, hope you guys are doing well. Let's hope the nuclear war is not coming, but who knows. Stay safe. Thank you very much for watching. I do appreciate you. And I shall see you in the next one.